Welcome back to Downbelow Developer Blog from an undisclosed location. I'm Steve.
I'm Ian.
And today we're going to be talking about more ways that the virtual world intersects with the real world in a meaningful and important manner.
And we've got another real-world example to talk to you about this future, self-driving cars. So there are a couple of real-world examples of this. The Google Street View cars in California are often computer-driven because they have a pilot program going on there. And there's also the Tesla autopilot system, which unfortunately recently the first fatal crash occurred for a vehicle equipped with that system just recently as we record this video. And in that case, that shows a very distinct difference between the level of development of that technology in the real world and in the Downbelow world.
Yep.
In the Downbelow world, there is a universal guiding system for all vehicles. Whether you are personally piloting a vehicle or it is computer piloted, all of them are networked.
There are not competing programs for this. This is a situation where the various municipalities, or possibly sometimes even on a national level, require a certain level of communication and database sharing. So if there is another program that comes along, it absolutely realistically has to tie in to the existing program for reasons we're about to discuss.
Yes, and this has been in place for long enough that worldwide, while there are a few hiccups transferring from some systems to some other systems, there's actually a pretty darn standardized system because it has gone through multiple iterations over more than 50 years of development. The reasons are, when you have this integrated network, the computerized cars can form a swarm intelligence, and they can work together to determine what is the safest optimal route to get each vehicle to its destination. And even when you have drivers who are personally operating their vehicles, perhaps they are either very poor and they have a clunky vehicle that does not have an optimized computer that can actually plan its own routes with the modern systems.
Alternately, they could be driving a motorcycle, which does not work too well with four-wheeled self-driving algorithms, and load balancing is an extra piece of icing on the cake for the computer load, so it's way more expensive to have a self-piloting motorcycle.
Or maybe they're extremely rich and they are just taking it as their privilege to not have to do so.
Or maybe they're a criminal and don't want people telling them where they can go remotely.
Get to that in a moment, because that gets into the dangers of when you're not connected at all.
Yep.
So, when you are networked, even if the human is in control, the fact that the car, even though it's being controlled by the human, is talking to all the other cars in the network, means that at the stage of the user putting in the input, that input and the result it will have is communicated to all the other vehicles, which can adjust, even if they are not in sensor range.
Yep.
Whereas here we come to the reason of safety, and this was the problem that came up for the non-networked modern vehicle that had the fatal crash. The driver was supposed to be paying attention because the Tesla autopilot system in the real world is in beta test and has an extensive series of warnings to users that the system might not detect all dangers. There was a danger that its computer was unable to recognize, in that the sun reflecting off of a white panel on the side of a truck was indistinguishable from the sky to the computer that was reading that camera input.
And so the car said, oh, there's nothing ahead of me, and kept on driving.
And so since the driver wasn't paying attention, there was a fatal accident. So in the Downbelow world, similar things can happen. As we mentioned, people who are engaged in criminal activities, they don't want to be tracked. But the inherent thing of the traffic control system, everybody's being tracked by everybody all the time.
By disconnecting, you are signaling to the system effectively that it's not that you're a non-entity, it's not that you're another car on the road, it's that you are a dangerous, unsafe, somewhere between a hazardous piece of debris that is moving down the road, or worse, a malfunctioning and out-of-control vehicle.
and the traffic control systems would treat the vehicle as such.
This means that most cars would start giving you a wide berth. There would be traffic jams as people slowed and stopped,
And you will be reported to the authorities.
Yep.
And even on Nuevo Paradiso, our primary setting, where the authorities often take a hands-off approach, traffic is one of the few things that they can get very hands-on about, because traffic is really important to the flow of the business of Yggdrasil Corporation. They do a lot of shipping, and that means that a lot of the traffic is directly involved with them.
On a lesser level, it's very key to the well-being of Nuevo Paradiso as an island when your primary non-megacorporate income is through tourism, and people keep complaining that you can't ever get anywhere in Nuevo Paradiso because there's always a traffic jam. People are going to stop coming, and we have a problem.
So let's just focus on the fact that traffic is an extremely important thing to the authorities, even on Nuevo Paradiso.
Yep.
So that's about it for that example of a real-world technology that exists in a more advanced way in the Downbelow world. We'll have one more example of that at least tomorrow, and we've got several more topics that will come to you from this undisclosed location in the future, so please stay tuned.